Stop the stream. Ho ho! I could be streaming. I am streaming. Okay. So, I don't know. Looks like desktop audio is turned off. My microphone is horrible. So, I'm going to turn down my music. So hopefully it won't pop on and get banned or something. So what is up? My name is Cord Campbell, and this is my whiteboard. And what I'm working on is Meta. And let me give you a little rundown of Meta. I'll see if I can give you a demo. I don't think I can give a demo. I might be able to give you a demo. I think it's broken or not running. Okay, so this is Google Cloud. Talk a little bit about what we're looking at here. We're going to stay on top of what the purpose of the site is. And why don't I put this up here while I'm talking so you can see me. Okay. So, trying to determine, what does this look like? Do I look okay? I'm the only viewer, so it's not going to matter much. Look at my hair. My hair is crazy. Okay, so I have COVID hair. I haven't gotten a haircut in almost a year, so I've been like, I don't know. I remodeled my house last year and then sold it and got a little apartment in Alameda, looking to move up maybe to the Sierras. Been writing code. That's what I've been doing. So I've been writing code for the last 6 months on and off, and the code is not running, so I gotta fix this. So this is what this is about. It's live coding. Okay, so I have this thing. I guess I can do a quick demo of the live stuff. Let me do that now. I'll explain all of what I'm doing here in a little bit. You just kind of take it in. So I've tried to clean up my browser, make sure I don't have anything questionable in there, like, you know, politics or something like that. So the site is at meta.us, and literally none of these links work except for API. That'll take you to the docs, which I'm updating all the time. So I'm doing this what you could consider live. So I'm just constantly deploying, and there's no launch. I just started deploying to a website. A lot of sites will like lock it off to where you can't get into it while they're working on it, or they'll park it somewhere else on a domain or something like that. And it's just me, so I don't really care. There might be people that show up for this. There have been people showed up and clicked on sign up and they've signed in and stuff. So I've got some pretty cool stuff going on here. So for one thing, I have a passwordless login system. I might have to go get my phone. I'll be right back. I will get to explaining what Meta does here in just half a second. It's best just to show it. All right, so I have a code here. So that's 330537, which is actually pretty safe because the second that you hit enter on Meta, it'll change it to like a very long hash that nobody can ever guess. So I just logged in, and you do have to have your phone with you. So when you're logging in, you have to have your phone. I'm going to go ahead and drop this right down here so I can talk a little bit about, let me look at this real quick so I can have, yeah, I've got that. All of that's visible now, so kind of know what I look like. I'm a long-haired hippie now. A long-haired old hippie. Trying to write code. So we have this this UI, which is stupid simple right now, and this is the help for it. This is the long help. That's all going to change. This is the short help. Some of this will change. So we have these links, and you have like this terminal shell, and the whole idea is it's supposed to be like a chat. So if I say something like this, the server should be running now. The server is not always running because I don't care to pay Google for stuff that I'm not using. So the servers shut themselves off after 24 hours. And then once I start working on it again, I'll start them. And then it'll take them about 5 minutes to spool up. And then once they're running, I can use it again. Now I'm going to search for that. Yeah, that'll come up and that link is broken. So we're going to go look at this picture. So what happened here is I issued a command, which can be executed like this, but you'll see you got this reply from what's essentially a bot, and it gives you back results. So I told it to index news.google.com, and then it went in and it looked inside the web page after it grabbed it, and it pulled out this information. And then we're going to go look at what it gave us. And right now it's broken. I can't actually look at the image from the site, so I need to fix that because it's a privatization issue. And then what is today? It's the 22nd. So I'm looking for something that got created on the 22nd. Unfortunately, these don't. There we go. I don't have the right MIME type on them, so I need to fix that. So here's the page. So this is what I just essentially did is I took a picture using ugly asparagus rattlesnake. Ugly asparagus rattlesnake is an index that I'm running on Solr, which is a search engine. Solr is a search engine, and I told it to index this page. And so when it did that, it pulled out, just right now, it pulled out the title of the page, which you can't see here in the screenshot, and then it pulled out the meta description, which you can't see in here either. And so I can do that with any page I want. I think that's, maybe it's like that. I don't know. I don't remember. Oh, interesting. Where's my cursor? That's unfortunate. Okay, I need to fix that. I don't know. How does Y Combinator work? I don't remember. Yeah, it's news. Oh, it's spelled. Okay, whatever. Okay, so I'm going to copy that, and then I'm just going to do that. So this tells it to crawl this page, the server. So what happens is it goes out and it says, oh, that's fast. So now I'm going to search for it, and there's hacker, and I have a link to it. So if I click on the link, and there it is. It's kind of like Pinterest, but it's full text, and actually it will be full text for all of this text. So if you search for fact check or something like that, this page will show up. Now I'll note this is an image, but there's a very specific reason why this is an image, is because what we're using is machine learning libraries to look at these things. So we're actually cropping out pictures and things like that. I'm not going to get into it right now, but that's what the service does. So let's maybe, I just want to get into coding, because really the purpose of this live stream is not so much for other people. I mean, it is. I mean, if you come along here and you're watching it, that's fine by me. But my son has been streaming on Twitch, and it gives him a schedule. And so I've been sort of having problems with, well, I have problems with like sitting down and working on this on a regular basis. And which is not to say I haven't done a lot on it. It's just, it's hard to work on it by myself. And so my son Connor, I think he uses Twitch for companionship. I mean, like, it's nice to have people coming in and hanging out with you, right? And I really ought to do that more with him. But now I need to do it myself, because it gives me a structured time that I can work on. I can work on things and get them done, right? So I've made videos in the past, and I haven't really ever streamed before, so whatever. So I don't know how long I'm going to make these. I don't want to make this super boring. So like clearly right now, this thing is pretty much a mess, which is sort of the point, is that it's going to be not a mess. This uploader, so there's this. So I have this framework. This is not going to look like this at all. If you were to look at, I think I have a like Slack. Let's see, is it Slack? Let me go over here and look. Okay, so Slack chat is what I called it. So this is the path. So I'm going to try to make this educational. I'll just talk out loud as I'm working on it. So this is the Slack. It doesn't work. I mean, you can type in it, but you can't. It doesn't do anything, right? It's just a layout. It's HTML, and it's Slack chat. Where is it? It's right here. Slack test. So this is the page. Get some water. So when you're doing something that you're doing by yourself, something like this, like a website, there's a lot of stuff to do. So there's HTML, which is what we're looking at over here. There's code to serve the pages, which is what this is. And then there's like stuff to start the local instance of it, which is running right here. You can see there's a problem, so we've got to fix this. So it says that I've got an invalid syntax somewhere. So I've, in this line here somewhere, there's, well, for one thing, I've got a semicolon on the end of it. So this is the problem with writing JavaScript and Python at the same time, but this is probably just my brain being weird. That's a semicolon supposed to be there. All right, so we're gonna go back and restart it. And now it's running, which means we can pull it up locally, which is what I wanted to do first. And we can look at the APIs. All right. So I'm going to go into the code here in a little bit. So all this code is private. I was going to open source it. I am going to open source part of it. So a lot of these libraries up here that I've written, like Time Warp and Builder and stuff, I'm going to open source all these. I've got a crawler as well, so in another project, and all that's going to be open sourced, and I'll talk about that at a later date. So today's focus is in implementing this settings, these settings methods. So we're working on the API today. If you have ever built a website or a service and you guys haven't, y'all have an API or something, this is what I'm doing for Meta. So Meta has that interface, that shell interface I showed you earlier, which will eventually look a little bit like, sort of like a Slack chat is what it'll look like, but the design comes almost last. The design is really incidental. I mean, it's not completely incidental. Like, you need to know what the UI is going to look like, sort of, when you're doing stuff like this. But when I'm working on the APIs, I've already built the UI and built some code that the UI uses. And here I'm gonna go ahead and log in. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if I'm running this locally, maybe I'll do another 399510. So that's the code, 399510. And if you're running this locally, then you don't have to go check your phone. It still texts your phone, but so I think the logins are like crashed. Like maybe, what's going on, man? Sometimes it sticks. Okay, so it blocks, because if you click in here, then it'll block. I don't know why. Like the pipe blocks or something. I have no idea. Ask Google. So, and there's blowers outside. I can't help it. This is just the way it is. It's so noisy here. So here I have some stuff like hello. There we go. I have some stuff in here that supports uploading things, so you can do a tag, like banana, and then anything that is uploaded will get tagged with banana. None of this works very well right now, but let's upload a picture. Let's upload this cutie. This is my daughter. A while back, maybe 10 years ago, something like that. Skiing in Colorado. All right, so this image has been uploaded to the site, and later you can upload more than one image here. So we'll upload another one of her. And so when I do that, they're not being tagged with banana. They might be being tagged with banana. Let's check. This is I'll have to log in. Come on. I don't want to show them a key. I'm going here. I use Google Cloud for the instances. So it's 30, yeah, it is 34, 83, 40. Yeah, it wants me to log in, all right. I don't know why. It's Solr, and I don't know what the password is. And I'm not going to go show it to you because I don't want to change it. Okay, so never mind. I'm not going to log into Solr, but I have a Solr instance running, and that's what's backing all this stuff. So if I do a search here, those are those two docs, these two. They don't say anything because I don't have the code done for that, but that just tells me that the doc is there. So I know I have two documents that I've uploaded to it. Okay, so essentially you can crawl a website, and I showed the image earlier, that image I pulled up of Google News. That is an image as well as this is an image. So those are both images. So the site ingests images. That's what it does. And if it's a URL that is created the image, in other words, if you send us a URL, if you send Meta a URL, it'll turn it into an image. Or you can already have an image. So you can go somewhere and take a picture of something and image it. So Meta will go to that place for you if it can, because it's a machine. It needs to be able to have a machine accessible endpoint. In this case, this endpoint was somewhere in time, like 10 years ago, in Colorado on some slope, right? Looking at my daughter, right? So this imaged her, and if we imaged a web page, it would also be an image. So they're both images. That's how the system deals with things. So let's talk a little bit about the API that we're working on. I'm just going to go through the list of methods. I'm not actually going to go down into them. I'm going to talk about the authentication real quick, and then I'm going to talk about coding up this settings section is what I'm going to shift into. The stream will just be just that. So I'm giving you a little bit of history so somebody can watch this and go, I don't know what's going on. Well, you still probably don't know what's going on, but I'm coding in Python and JavaScript, which this is all of the code, which is in a private repo. You cannot get access to it. You're going to see the code as I'm doing it. So, and some of this code will be open sourced. But the repo is all over here. The site, I guess it's probably worth mentioning if you're a programmer and you're interested in what things are programmed in. It's written in Flask. So this is what the site is written in, and it's written to run on Google AppEngine. So I use a combination of Google AppEngine, which is this code in this repo right here, and some servers which run as VM instances, one of them being a Solr instance, which if you wanted to start it yourself, you could. I have the code available for that in a repo. called grub-2.0, which I will talk about in a subsequent stream, and then the grub box itself, which is the crawler. So, which is what this method right here uses. So the system itself, or the site, the solution, the whatever you want to call it, whatever meta is to people. I mean, if you come in here and look, it's like it's a search sidekick. That's what we're selling, is search sidekicks, which are indexes. And that gives you intelligence to organize and filter information online over time. So if you find something online, or you put something online, like a photo of a family member, that it'll allow you to go back and find it over time. And by other attributes. There are no ads, alerts, or tracking code on the site. That's the intent. The site allows you to index web images and free text. And then it'll allow you to tag things, any type of document, with some type of machine intelligence, machine learning. And then you'll be able to search using web, SMS, or Slack when I get done with it. So that's what we're working on. So in order to, and a little bit of it works, so like logins work, we have shell working, things like that. And you can do some limited searches in here right now. This is all live. If you go to meta.us, you'll get some version of this, and as long as I'm working on it, you'll be able to use it. If I'm not working on it, these servers can shut off. After 24 hours, they'll shut off. So it's not always running. So usually the code on AppEngine is always running, so you can always log in or sign up, but you cannot, or read the docs, but you cannot always use the system. If the system boxes, the instances are offline, it won't work. Okay, I've talked enough. I got a code. So we've got these methods. So the system is a search engine, so you can crawl things by URL. You can upload things, which are currently PNG, GIFs, and JPEGs. That's it. That's all it supports. No PDFs. You can index things, so you can index text, you can index image sets, or you can index JSON. Also, the settings, which what we're working on today, you can send settings a JSON object. And then search is for searching for things, and tag is for telling a machine learning library to look at the image sets that you've uploaded and extract tags from them. And or alternately, a model could look at perhaps the index. So the index is based on Solr. It's Solr 8.7, which has a lot of features. And if we were just to jump real quick to the search and go over to Solr parameters, these are the parameters the system will support mostly. Most of these parameters will be supported by the system to do searches because it is Solr on the back end. So hopefully there's no holes in Solr, but maybe there are, and we'll find them. All right, so to start out, authentication with the API tokens is done with the shell. So if we go over to the console and I say, what do I say, token, it'll tell me what my token is. So this is my API token. And that's my API token currently on, I think, both the server and here on localhost. But right now, the server, the production server, it doesn't work because I don't have it implemented yet. So that's what we're going to do right now. Okay, so I'm working on basically the personal config stuff down here at the bottom. So that's this line of work. I kind of have this sketched out what I need to do here. Up at the top, I don't know if we can see that, but I have like pages that need to be worked on. So it's like HTML, CSS, maybe some templating. I have search queries that need to be worked on, so that's parameters similar to what I just showed in the API. I have UI work, which is mostly the term stuff, but some UI work in like Slack outputs and things like that. And then the document handling, so that's the uploads and the crawl uploads. and then all of the command structure, which is like what you can type into the shell or into SMS or Slack to talk to the bot for doing searches or indexing things or uploading things. So that's the general like areas that have to be worked in. Again, it's all me, so I pretty much just keep it all in my head, but I put it up there so it's kind of outlined so you can see that. And so I should be down in the bottom right. I'll put it back up here so you can see me. Let's see what I look like. Earth to open CVS, there we go. Yeah, I look like a hot mess, but whatever. I got long ass hair. It is what it is, people. All right. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go and look at this setting. So what I've said here is that we're going to have, so I'll do this at a later date. What I'm going to do first is the API calls. So I'm saying if I do a get p on this, if I do a get /p on meta, then, so in other words, if I do, let me just do it right here, curl, and we have to look at it's a get, right? So that's just like a fetch. Maybe I should just explain this from like whichever coded standpoint. So a get is done by basically going to a page just like this, just like me hitting enter. If I look at I don't want to go down too far down a rabbit hole here, but I feel like I should explain some things. So if I do a get here and I look at the network traffic inside this, and I just went to inspect. That's how I got here. And I look at this, you can see it says get right there. It's a thing. It's like a request method for HTTP. That's how it works. And it returns a status code, and there's a header, so like what was sent to request it. And then there was response headers. So that's like what the headers that you got when it came back. So you can see there's like a cookie because there's authentication and it's secure. And there's like a response. And here's the response. And lo and behold, it's a web page. That's what the response is. And in our case of APIs, our responses are a little bit different. They look like this. So they're what's called JSON, and they should be in what is considered to be an application JSON MIME type. That's the type of response, what it looks like, how it's formatted when it's returned by the system to the user. So we're going to go over there and do that right now. So we're going to actually say curl, and we're going to do localhost because I'm not using the main site. I'm doing this locally, so this is running locally, and I'm not going to explain how to run that locally because you don't have the code, so it doesn't. But if you had your own code, it's pretty easy to set all this up, and you'll see me do all this stuff. So if you had your own code, you could certainly sort of kludge together how I do things with how you could do things for deploying to Google App Engine. All right, so I'm asking for this localhost 8080, and then I'm looking for /p. So I'm going to hit enter there, and it says, if I look even over here, I can see it came through, and it says it wants to redirect. And then here it says login. And the reason why it does that is because if we go over here and we actually go here and we go to /p, you'll see something interesting, which is it says not found, right? So it wanted me to log in over here, right? And over here, it doesn't want me to log in. And the reason why is because I'm already logged in. So if I go over here and I log out, and then I go to /p, then you'll see something that says you need to log in, and the next step is P. And the reason why is because it doesn't know what it's trying to do, what it's trying to ask for. Like it knows that it's a catch-all, and when there's a catch-all, it asks you to log in. And the reason why is because Meta itself if I go to, let's see, if I go to Google News, for example, and then I go to this page and I'm like, oh, this is an interesting article, you can do meta.us/. That's what you can do. And then it'll forward to the site and then it'll bookmark it for you. So right now it's actually imaging the site just based on the fact that I put meta.us in the front of it. Okay, so now that's done, and so now I can do something like search Trump. And it forwarded it back. It went back because there's an auto forward on it, but I could search Trump. I can do this. I don't know why. Nobody wants to search Trump. Maybe you do want to search Trump. There you go. So that's what I just indexed. All right, so anyway, all right, back to the topic at hand. You can, working on this project, you can very easily get off into the weeds because you're like, oh, something happened in the news. And you're like, no, just go back. Okay, so, okay, we don't need to do anything in there. And so the whole idea is here is that we want this to be returning what it says here. Right here. This is what we want. So if we were to call it with all of this, then we should get all that back. So that's what we're going to do right now. Finally. Okay, so settings. So here's the settings. I'm going to go into 2-column layout because I'm going to pull up another one. So this is the crawl. This is the current crawl methods, handlers, I should say. So the handlers are like handling endpoints. So here you have a /g endpoint. So this is what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all this, and I need most of this. So I'm going to go in here and do this like that. I'm going to take a little gander at this. So it's got that config import up here above this. I already have this thing here. So this is just a way for Bottle to register a blueprint. This is a blueprint is kind of like an extra file for the handlers file. It's a way to bust up your methods or your handlers for the site into separate components or separate files, I guess, so that it doesn't get into a rat's nest, which my code always gets into a rat's nest, so I don't know, it doesn't matter to me. So here we need this to be called settings handlers. And you're probably like, oh, finally, he's coding. And then we're doing a get here. So this needs to be a get. And then there's this login required thing. Now that's for the web. So that's not going to help us here, right? We're not going to be helped at all by this. So I need to take this completely out. Now, here's the problem is that if somebody were to use their browser to ask for this, then it would be nice if I gave it to them. So maybe I will leave that in. I think I will. Okay, so whenever they go and grab this settings, and this is going to be a list, settings list. I guess I'll call it settings list. I don't know. I usually create the methods and then I go back and rename them because I don't know what to name it immediately right here. But this is returning a list. It requires the token, so we need to see if the token is around. And it's going to be request args. Yep. And we are going to need from Flask, we're going to need request. But I'm just going to copy all of that. I tried to keep my imports to a minimum. Usually try to make them, I don't do one bulk import or copy pasta, all that. I try to do it where it's the minimum you need. So this is settings. From web models, import settings. Okay, probably user as well. All right, so what I'm saying here is that if they go to /p, so again, I'm doing this request here, and then I'm going to need to give it a token. So I need to go grab my token again. Oops. Two 205-431. 205-431. All right. All right, so that's the call, and that'll be encrypted whenever it's going over to meta, so you won't be able to see the parameters, and I mean that token is secured through HTTPS when it gets called to meta.us. So we are saying that we're going to handle P, and we're going to extract the token when it comes through from the request args. So that's what we've got so far. We still have this situation where it's saying login required, which is not going to allow us to do that if we have that there. So I'm going to comment it out. Flask has a way to deal with that. I'm going to have to go figure out how to do that here in a second. I'm going to finish these methods first. I'll do manual token handling or something like that. I'll just say that it's okay to use that token, whatever token they're sending in. I'll just make it, approve it, no matter what the token is. And then when I get done with that, then I'll go back and change it to where it actually checks the real token. Okay, so we now have to go into main right here, and we have to register these settings handlers. Okay, and let's check NDB is not defined. Line 34 in settings. So here, we'll go up here at the top and we can see what it looks like. And that's what we need right there from the Google Cloud NDB. And I'll put that up top. I kind of put these in order of like, this is like stock. This is sort of specific to the platform I'm using. And then these are my own methods or imports from the models, and then the Flask stuff. And usually this is right here. And then configuration file, which you can't see because it has secrets in it. Okay, so I got all that saved, so I should be able to run it now. Settings handler is not defined. And that's saying in main. Settings handlers, settings handler. So let's take a look at crawl. And this is crawl handlers. Like this. So let's see if that works. All that blueprint stuff is kind of fussy, so. All right. That seemed to have worked. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do our request. And it says the console is locked. It needs to be unlocked by entering the PIN, blah, blah, blah. The view function did not return a valid response. Well, that's because we don't have a response being returned by the view. So we need to go down here and see what we're returning here. And it's just like something like this. So at the end of this run of the settings list is where we're going to output some JSON. So we're going to dump some JSON in there. And let's see here. We're using the scrub JSON, which that's just like a, I'm going to like, let's see. I don't want to rename it. I want to just make one called API JSON. That's what I'm going to do. API JSON. I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do this. So now it's this template. This is I don't know what kind of templates this Flask uses, but I mean it's pretty stock stuff for Python, so I'm not going to explain templates today. So this is just going to take a variable called JSON that I pass to the thing that's handling the endpoint call, and it takes this template and it's going to use it and stick whatever I put in JSON in here. You'll see. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure this is the right API JSON. And I'm going to take out this. And I'm going to look and see what I said in the docs here. Settings. So I want it to spit out result equals success. That's one of the things I want it to spit out. So there it is right there. So I'm saying whenever you ask for /p, I'm going to retrieve the token from the query, from the request. So I'm going to actually print this token. And then that'll print it to the console so I can see if it's grabbing it, which it should be. And then I'm going to make a response that uses a template called API JSON, which is very simple. It's just got a JSON variable in it. And then I'm going to say JSON equals JSON dumps, which will then take the JSON dumps from the result success object. That's a dictionary. It will dump that JSON into the JSON variable and then pass it into the template, and then the system will mark it as an application JSON format and return it as a response. So we should get a JSON object back now. The hell you say? So it's saying the same thing. I didn't save it. All right, so there's the result. And so what we can do is we can tell curl to be a little bit quieter, I think. That's not it. There we go. And so that should now be, this is being returned in a format that should be shown by the browser as JSON. Let's see here if that's the case. Whoops. Can't copy the whole thing. Just this part. There we go. And let's see what it says for the response type. I just want to make sure that the response type is correct. Content type says application JSON. So that's correct. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. So that part is now operational. So we have settings endpoint working. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at the other one. So I've got another one. I was stubbing these out. So I've got another one that I've got to do, which is the name here. And now what I'm doing is I'm going off and looking for the one that has the example of, is it in here? Where I can pass in a value? Auth. Auth has it. Auth, I'm definitely open sourcing auth. That was a lot of work. It's not an auth. Let's see here. Search. Yeah, there we go. So I just want to make sure I'm doing this right. So you've got this, turns this into a value. So it basically extracts that and sticks it in a value, a variable called name, and then you say name in here equals whatever you want it, whatever you want to call it. And so I'll say var1. All right. So now var1 is in there. I'm still asking for the token because I don't know. I need to figure out the authentication for the token stuff for the APIs. So that'll be the case for all of the APIs. So I haven't done that yet. I'm just stubbing out the endpoints for this one method, API method. So what we want to do here is we want to say show, what is this? Returns a single setting, name and value. And that's it. So print token. Oh, I want to see if that printed the token. It did. There it is right there. Take that out. We're going to want to return JSON here as well. So I'm just going to leave this as is for the moment. That looks good. Now this will be, it'll have something like this in it. So it'll look something like that. So let's give that one a test. So test. And it says here, we've got an error. Existing endpoint function already exists or something like that. So that's this name. I didn't change the name. So this is the setting. I think I just want to do setting. And there we go. All right, so we could throw the name in there, I guess. So I'm going to make this look a little neater. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So we're returning that JSON object there for that. Now we'll be fetching the settings from a class I created. Google has this service called data store. I think that's what it's called. Let's see here, data store. I don't remember what the product is called, but anyway, it's sort of, it's a NoSQL type thing, and it's got these. I need to delete these. Yep, it's got this. Where you can see, like here's a bunch of URLs, for example. So you have like an ID. Take a look at this. So we have properties, and we have like a key when it was created, descriptions, things like that. What was typed in by the user, etc. This is just right now is just kind of like a stubbed out thing that I've done, but the user is all pretty much done. But the URL stuff is just sort of stubbed out to be able to like outline what I wanted to keep for the URL. So some of the stuff will go away, some of it will stay. Nevertheless, what we're working on is the settings, which you'll notice here that there's not a settings in here yet, but there will be as soon as I get this running. This local install will call and connect over to the Google Cloud Platform object store, and it'll save all these, and it authenticates from the machine that you're working on over to Google Cloud. They used to run it locally. They had some like process you would start in Google AppEngine development stuff, and you would use the NDB locally, but now it's all just done remotely with keys, and so yeah, I think that works a little bit better. I don't really know. I haven't figured out how to separate, dev from production, because that's just me working on it right now. So that'll be somebody else's problem if this thing takes off. If it doesn't take off, then it's not a problem. So the settings itself will be using some of these. If we just go in here and look, some of this is text, some of it's a date. This URL ID is just a string, but in here I'm using something called Json Property, and Json Property will allow me to store a JSON object. And what the docs say, if you look at this, and the way you can Google it is like this, and you can see, unfortunately, this is the Python 2 version, and I'm using Python 3. But if you migrate over, like it's a little bit different. I don't know. It's so confusing when things update on the internet and you're trying to read the docs and you don't get the proper version. But I think it's the same. Some of the querying is different, but you get a JSON property values a Python object such as a list or dict or string that is serializable using Python's JSON module. Data store stores the JSON serialization as a blob, unindexed by default, optional keyword argument, compressed. So in this particular case, I only need to look up the setting by name, the user ID, which is UID here in this case, UID, and then the name of the setting. And I think I'm going to maybe lowercase all those. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter. But, and then it'll just return the JSON method. I don't need to search settings for, in other words, I don't need to search everybody's settings for some particular value that's inside of the JSON, inside of the database. The user will, or the system itself will always know what value it's after. So the thing I'm using this for is like if you think about like customization of a system for users, you could store a JSON object, for example, in the database for the user. So here is the user objects that I have created for the system. So it stores email, phone number, things like that, phone codes, things like that. But whenever it needs to store something that's sort of like arbitrary, like whatever the user picks or something like that, or maybe like what color the screen should be whenever they're in the shell or the UI. You know, what's the color scheme of the site, personal preference for the user. Then where do you store that? You can store it in here. You can store it in the user object. But then the problem with that is that you will need to like rewrite over the top of the user object every time you want to update it. So you got to read it out, serialize it, decode it, turn it into an object, add something to it, or update something in it, and then or take something away from it, and then save it back. And that's all done to the user object. And in this case, what I'm opting to do, for good or bad, this is the way I'm going to do it, is I'm going to create a thing called settings, and then each of the individual entries can be a value that is picked by the user. So in other words, like token will be from the user object, and I'll just read in what their token is, and I'll just put it in there, and then they can't update that. And same thing with their user ID or their email address or whatever it is I decide to put in here as a list of settings that are particular to the user. If the user is thinking about their settings, well, what are your settings? Well, it's like who I am. You know, it's not. In some cases, you have like a profile, and then you have settings. So you could like update your profile, but here it's going to be the whole kit and caboodle will be in settings. But then if you want something custom, which there's going to be need for that with this, then like for example vision limit, or for example Slack integration, if you go over to Slack and you ask for authentication tokens, they'll give you JSON. So then why not just save the JSON into an object called Slack auth here, and then you're done. I don't need anything else. So that's what I'm going to do here with this settings stuff, and that's why there's a JSON object, and that JSON property will be the serialized JSON object using JSON library in Python, this thing right here, to serialize it for me, just like I'm doing here. Okay, so what I need to do next is, I've done this one, I've done that one. I mean, I say I've done, I've wired up the route. It doesn't do anything else. And then I need a post. Copy pasta. All right. So let's call it update. And then I need to do this as a post. And when you do this as a post, you need to change this to form. I'll show you what that looks like. Here's kind of an example. Actually, I could probably just take this. I'm going to change this to localhost. And it's working. Okay, so that's the third one. And that's it. Now, there's a lot more to do. So one of the things that needs to be done, so I'm going to kind of outline in here for myself and for the stream to do. So this is the stuff to do, right? So the first thing that needs to be done is stub out the path. That's done. All right. And the second thing that needs to be done is authentic. Trying to think. I guess it's this. I guess it's the. And for the life of me, I can't remember what these things are called. I just flew right out of my head. Whatever the hell they're called. Something or another's. Basically what this does is it, like here in this case, it uses Flask login to call login required, and it gets called that. I want to say it's like it's not a selector. It'll come to me here in a minute. So it's, see, this is where you wish you had somebody watching you. There's nobody watching me, so it doesn't matter. I can't remember what these were called. Maybe I can answer it for myself. Okay, so well, nevertheless, whatever the hell they're called, I need to wire this up so that I have one that basically looks like this. Flask login, except I probably won't say Flask login, token login or something like that. That's sort of what I've got to do. Authentication, I don't know, Mark, I can't, class, oh, it's class, no, it's not a class method. It's a app thing. I'm just going to call it the app thing. I don't remember what it's called. It's not required to actually program. To know how to program, you don't need to know what it's called necessarily, I guess. So the third thing I need to do then is all of the model logic. And then the fourth thing is what? Return correct data. All right, that's it. Then it should be more or less done. Okay, so I've done with the stubbing out of the pass, and probably today it's 12:49. I don't want to go on for too long in this stream because I just want to try it out a little bit, but see how it goes. So maybe I'll get the authentication thing going. Maybe I won't. Okay, so in order to do this, I'm going to go over to the Flask site. And I'm going to go dig into the maybe authentication stuff. Let's see here. Oh, I think it's what I should be looking for is Flask login. Yeah, here we go. Customizing the login process. This documentation is automatically generated from Flask login source code, API documentation. And alternative tokens. Using the user ID as the value of the remembered token means you must change the user's ID to invalidate the login sessions. One way to improve this is to use an alternate user ID. I don't want to do that. Let's see, customizing the login using authorization header. Custom login using request loader. Login manager request loader. Sometimes you want to log in users without cookies, such as using header values or an API key passed as a query argument. In these cases, you should use the request loader callback. This callback should behave the same as your user loader callback, except that it accepts Flask request instead of user ID. It accepts the Flask request instead of the user ID. Okay. This callback should behave the same as your user loader callback. Okay, so I've got to open auth. My user loader. Somehow I think that's in main. Don't remember where I put it. I don't even know if I have one. Maybe I didn't do that. I don't remember. Well, I guess they're giving us an example here. So login manager, request loader, def load user from request. Okay. I mean, I guess. Well, this should be like pretty much verbatim. And then how do I call it though? So there's a login required. Sometimes you want to log in the users without cookies, such as the user header value or API key. In these cases, you should use the request loader callback. This callback should be the same as your user loader. So I don't know, login manager. So here's, I'm doing this in the shell. I wonder if does this actually do anything? I don't know. Let me save this. Let's see if I can break something. Looks like I broke something. Yeah. Okay. That is being done. Did I save it? Okay, so I'm going to put this here, but then this is supposed to be something else entirely. So it's all of this code. And this is like you load user from request. That's what they're saying. And then this is request, and we have request. And we have login manager, and we have Flask login. And then the API key is going to be the token. All right. We have to do this in the context of NDB. For some reason, it requires that. I don't know why. So is this, it's in here twice? Is it in here twice? If I have a token, it says first try to log in, use the API key URL argument. So this was from my other one. So it's going to query for the user. So my users have user query filter by token first. If user, return user. So I want to print that. Make sure it works. And then what are we going to put login required here? I have no idea. I'm just guessing. All right, moment of truth. Which one did I did it on the first one. I'm going to do this Python M JSON tool thing. And this has got some error. Indentation does not match line 35. Convert to tabs. Oh, what? Token login. Oh yeah. Expecting value. Well, it's because it's got an error. This should be redirecting. What? Redirecting to target URL. Login next. Blah 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 blah. So it's not authenticating me. So I had that named user loader, which was from here. So that's not what I wanted. I wanted this request loader is what it's saying. So I need this. This should give me an error. And okay. And then it should fail because it's not included. But it doesn't say that. So what is going on here? So I've called this request loader, but I don't have it included. I guess, oh, it's part of login manager, which is this guy. So request loader is part of login manager. Okay. So can I get this to print something here? Nothing. It wants me to log in because I've got this login required up here. Well, didn't run any of this. Sometimes you want to log in with the login manager header loader. I wonder if this is a request loader. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back and I'm going to look for, so I'm looking at the Flask login. So I'm going to search Google for Flask login and then example token. So we found some help site. Oh, these are decorators, aren't they? Is that what they're called? No. Yeah, right there. All right. Back to what I was doing. See, I'm doing things just a little bit different than this person. So it's got blueprints. What I want is something like this. I want a decorator for it. The API needs a new endpoint that the client can use to request a token. Oh, there it is. The verified password callback needs to be to support both authentication styles. I mean, the Flask login page is customizing login process. So see, login required. That's all for just regular logins. I have all of this implemented. All of this was working. Customizing the login process. Login view, users log in. Please log in. Yeah, all that. Yes, yes. Unauthorized handler. Header loader. Sometimes you want to support basic auth. Login man load from a header. So that's going to be deprecated. Custom login using a request loader, which is what we've done, sort of, here. Load user from request. What I mean is it saying that I should customizing the login process. right here. If you'd like to customize the process further, decorate a function with login manager unauthorized header. This will set the callback for the unauthorized method, which, among other things, is used by the login required. It takes no arguments and should return a response to be sent to the user instead of their normal view. So login required. If you decorate a view with this, it will ensure that the current user is logged in and authenticated before the actual view. If they're not, it calls the login manager unauthorized callback. Fresh login required. Setup needs refresh user loader. This sets the callback for reloading a user from the session. The function you should set: header loader, anonymous user, login view, login message, unauthorized handler. Well, let's try it. Flounder stream. Okay, so unauthorized handler. All right, let's see what happens. Flask login has no attribute. Unauthorized handler. What is that? Flask login has no attribute. Unauthorized handler. So this doesn't have it. Did I spell it wrong? I think that's not the same thing. It's not a decorator. See, this is a decorator. The login required is a decorator. But here, I feel like this could be used here, like that maybe. I don't think I should do that, but I'm thinking that maybe that's a thing. I don't know. Let's see if it runs. Yep. And it returned something. But it did not say here, which means that didn't run. But what if I say at Flask login, login required. It's wanting me to try to log in. So this is always going to, like, I don't think that I'm going to use that decorator at all. That's not a thing. Well, custom login. This would be great if it were running, but I don't know how it should be running. Request loader. "4 years, 6 months ago." I apologize. What is the purpose of the request loader in Flask login? How does it interact with the user loader decorator? If I am using a token-based authentication system, I'm planning on sending a token, store the token there, send the token in the auth. I will need a request loader or a user loader. I will post it as its own answer. Zach Siegel. Here it is. To verify users with Flask login session ID front-end requests through Angular, you must set the with credentials configuration flag to true. That is, if you're using Angular, which I'm not, I don't have anything to do with Angular. None of that is useful. Oh, so to answer your question, they both serve the same function for Flask login. They're both used to load the user. Request loader, however, is appropriate for custom logins. Your request loader, however, is appropriate for custom logins. Here's a great tutorial I found that utilizes request loader to take advantage of token-based authentication. And this is done in 2014, 6 years ago. Okay. Yeah. User makes sense. So this is a user object. Get it, the user object. This is pretty standard Flask tutorial level stuff. It's asking for the token. This is request loader, like just like we have. I don't know. Doesn't matter. And they've got request. I don't know where this thing's coming from. I don't know where that's coming from. Protected. Login required. Load user token equals request headers get authorization. Token is non-token. Well, so what it seems to be indicating is I can just do this, like this. we're going to return none if it doesn't exist. So I've got all this, I've got that. That looks pretty good. Maybe that'll work. Let's find out. Okay. We've got to put this decorator back in there. And it wants to redirect me. Well, I guess the question would be whether or not it has run or not. It's like not. It's not running. You can see it's not in there. So how about we do this? I'm curious about, like, I can't remember, strangely enough, I can't remember fully understanding this. Interesting. Is that the here or here there? So in the shell, here, there. And then we reload here. It's a here, there. All right, what about if we run it over here? Nothing. Wants us to log in. Well, it's Flask. It's flat. This is what it should be. This should cause this causes this to run. So that's what we have here. But then what if we just copy this wholesale out of here into here? Just do blit, just like that. Now let's see what we get. Nothing. It wants to redirect us to log in. So what we could say here is, well, we've tried this. We tried to do it to the request loader, right? Here. Well, I guess what we need to do here is we need to print here. Let's just make sure that it's actually not, that's not working. If I take these out, this will break. It's so odd. What if we just took out this? All right, and what if we try to go to the shell? Missing user loader, request loader. So it's saying there, request loader. But then when we go to here, if we take out this, does it do the same thing to us? No, it doesn't. It wants to log me in. It's so weird. But it shouldn't. I mean, it should say, well, this is login required here. It says Flask login required. I have a user loader here as well. There's some of these like stray methods are in here. This is the one that returns the token in the shell. So weird. Okay, so let's do this. Yep, and then if we take this off, it should return it. Yep, and I take it back out, and I put it in there, and then it has no problem whatsoever. Has no problem whatsoever running There's no problem whatsoever asking for a password on this, right? See, and if we go into here, so it's p foo. It's totally returning it to me because it's authenticated. But then I don't have a login manager in here. I mean, I don't have this this load user thing. That's not. That's so weird. Because this is for the shell. This is for the site, for like the index.html page. I'm just looking through here to make sure that it's, like here, for example, this is where the URL stuff gets handled. So like this is a special like extractor for extracting paths. So it extracts the HTTPS :URL layout after the slash, so it's meta.us/ and then all of that stuff. So that's where it pulls it in, but then here's where that Flask login is required on that. So that makes you log in. It forces you into the login flow, but but let's see here. It knows I'm logged in here too. But there's the user loader. So if I delete it, does it work? Looks like it works. What if I try to do this? That works. How odd. I wonder if you only have to define it once. It's possible. I don't know why that would be. Like, in other words, if that's here and I take this out, like this, if I take that out and then I reload this, it's not going to work. That's right. So it only needs to be in one place. So what if I put it in here? I think what I'm not getting is like probably cut, save. I'm not getting like the scope at which this thing is running in. Like this load user thing, maybe it's just defined once because it's got a decorator. It just gets loaded once. So it's possible. So this is the entire kit and caboodle. So what I need to do is check this and see if that's. Oh, missing user loader or request loader. So let's go back. Let's close that. Settings. Okay, so we'll do that. Still not saying here. User loader or request loader. That says user loader. Why would it want it to be in this file? I don't get that. Oh, it's this thing. Maybe. I don't know, man. I have no idea. Settings. Oh yeah, that's right. This is login manager. Well, no, I don't think so. I think it's shell. Shell, record once, shell, blueprint, shell. Settings handler. Like that. Try it again. And try it here. Oh, we got it here. That's good news. So for here, so let's take this out. Don't you be scrolling on me. Let's take this out and see what happens. No. So that's the deal then. Is that state app auth login? I have no idea why that changes things. Well, let's see if we can change this to the request loader. Request loader. That should still be the same way. And then what we want is the token equals the request args get token. But unfortunately, we're going to have to do both that and the form because one of them, like when UID is not defined in API HTML. I was trying to look for the user. Hold on a second. I gotta undo this. Yep. It's got to be in site. Well, so this is site, so that's under web. Yeah, that code's all good. So I wonder if it's not because settings is overriding it or something. If I take this out, does it work then? Yes. And then I put this back in here and it doesn't work. Ugh. It makes zero sense. I think I don't understand the scope of these. Like, I don't even know if scope is the right word, but like, I don't know how to use all this shit. What it is. I mean, I've gotten this far, but I'm running into problems now. Live! Okay, so I'm going to save this, but then I'm going to go into main. Then I'm going to go into site. And I'm going to put it in here. I'll save it in there and see what happens. Settings. So this is site. It seemed to work. Let's put this back in here. Well, I'm going to save it though. That works. That works. Console works. The kid knows I'm logged in here because it's got that, it says console up there. But then if I go here, then it wants me to go log in, which is fine because I've got Flask login required right here. But then I want to save this. Like this, I'm saying login manager here, request letter, load user. That seems reasonable. Token request argument, get token with client contacts user. This is going to be user token equals token. User has no attribute token. Oh, API token. Okay, but now I'm not logged in. Why am I not logged in? Is it trying to look for the token? Oh, I don't know. I think it's overriding it. I want to say it is. So when I say overwriting it, I guess I should talk about what I mean, maybe nobody's ever going to watch this, so I'm just not going to worry about it. I'm just going to do it for me. So what has to be going on here is this has to be modifying this thing. This stuff has to be modifying the behavior of this. And it is. You can see there. But the question is, why is it modifying? So if I take out this record once thing and save it, then it still says console. But if I paste this back in here to get this to work, in other words, like if I save this and then I go try to hit the token endpoint, then it wants to log me in because I have this login required thing here. Let's see, which one am I doing? Doing the foo one. So this named one is the one I'm calling right here. Okay, I don't know how I did that. Nice to know how I did that so I can get back to not doing it. Okay, so I'm going to take this out, right? Take that out, I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to reload this. That works fine. Now I'm going to make a call. I get my data back because I'm not protecting it. I add this to it, the login required, which is then going to force it to log me in via the web, which I don't want it to do. But then if I put this back in here, then it says here. And that's what I want it to do, because here I can say print token. And then this apparently is returning something. Let's see if that works. Should be redirected automatically to target. None. So this didn't work. My token not right? One 76577. Yeesh. Well, that sucks. I'm not able to log in. Okay, so if I take all this shit out of here, it's like fail. Fail, fail, fail. Let's try this again. Maybe I typed the number in wrong. That happens. So, what's my pin? I logged me in. Okay, so that means that it was right. So if I zip this and then I reload, doesn't work. If I take this out, it'll work. Well, I should say. If I go to C, it will work. Yes. And if I go into here, it's not printing here because I'm not in there. But if I go to here, it's not printing here either. But if I go to shell, if I were to go to shell and I do print onload, that's probably going to show up here. Nope, it didn't. Well, but this didn't work either. I don't know. I'm gonna have to go figure this out. How long have I been streaming? Average watch time 35 minutes. So it's only been me, so that's good. All right, well, I'm gonna call it a finale on this until I figure this out, because it's a little frustrating for me to kind of wander around through it. But at least I'm going. So I'm gonna maybe talk for just a couple more minutes, make it even 2 hours. So what I did today was I stubbed out the paths for the API for Meta, which is V1 API, so the settings. So I'm stubbing out these endpoints and then wiring them up, and I'm currently trying to figure out how to get the authentication to work, but I'm having problems with it, so I'm gonna go off and figure that out. And then when we come back, I'll finish up on these tasks. So I'll probably figure out this authentication thing, get that wired up, explain that, and then I'll try to do a little bit of these other ones. And then the next stream, hopefully I'll be returning the correct data from settings. And I'll stream probably, I might stream later today or maybe tomorrow. So, well, anyway, this is episode 1. It's going to be a lot of episodes. So I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Have a great day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. And go sign up on meta.us for bookmarking and saving things on the internet. Take care and have a great day.